created by direct employment, we then set out to find out how many jobs would be created in the overall economy by indirect employment. First, we used the multiplier effect to find out how large a GDP growth would be caused by spending in the stimulus, and then we used Oken's law to relate that GDP growth to job creation. The multiplier effect is, simply put, a way of finding out for each additional dollar of spending in the economy, how much will the GDP increase. This is the formula for the multiplier effect. However, it requires an infinite time frame and a known marginal propensity to consume. So since we don't have either of these, we instead used estimates by Mark Zandi, chief economist of Moody's Economy.com. This is the data that he has for multiplier effect. We used 1.2 as the multiplier for all tax cuts and 1.4 as the multiplier for all spending. So this chart shows how much GDP growth we expect to come from each section of the stimulus package. So for tax cuts, for example, the amount of GDP change was the size of the tax cuts in the stimulus bill times the multiplier effect. However, in the case of a lot of this GDP growth, we already accounted for first wave job growth previously. So we don't want to double count any jobs. For all sections in which we already counted jobs, we subtracted 1 from the multiplier effect. Thus, all the areas in blue we are not counting in the indirect employment wave for job creation. We're only using the sections that are highlighted in red. Oken's law is an empirical observation relating changes in GDP to changes in the unemployment rate. So by knowing the current size of the United States workforce, the current size of the GDP, and how large a GDP change we expect from the stimulus, we can thus calculate the number of jobs that will be created in the second wave from the stimulus package. We concluded that there would be 1.95 million jobs approximately created in the second wave within the economy. And by adding that to our total from the first wave, we found that there would be 3.1 million jobs created overall as a result of the stimulus package. Now, as you can see from these charts, some areas were more effective on a job per dollar basis, as they make up a larger portion of the job creation than they do of the spending. So we went and made this graph showing for each section that the stimulus bill was spending, how many jobs were created per $1 billion of spending. So here, education was the most effective, creating nearly 10,000 jobs for every $1 billion invested. Note that that doesn't mean that the 10,000 jobs were in the education sector. They may have been spread out throughout the economy.
So I'm looking at how unemployment